Hey everybody, it's Dr. May. How's it going today? I want to give you a topic called squeezing the most out of your therapy groups. Okay, so therapy groups are not just passive things, okay? They're something that we actively have to participate in. And we kind of bring to the table our own attitudes, our own mindset. And based on the way we approach it, can depend on how much we get out of it, right? So what we put into it could affect what we get out of it. So I want to give you guys some tips about how you could squeeze the most out of your therapy groups and also some things that it might benefit you to avoid. Okay, so we're going to go through that. So whatever treatment you're in, it could help you. All right, so this could refer to DBT groups, non-DBT groups, some other psychoeducational groups, 12-step groups, support groups, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so we could kind of do a broad stroke about this one. Okay, so I'm going to use the orange juice squeezing metaphor throughout just to make this a little more fun. Okay, so one thing I want to go over is that there's two elements of group that we should keep in mind in terms of where we could benefit. So there's a process element of group. So that has to do with the interactions among the people in the group, both the group members and the group leader or leaders, and the content of the group. So if it's a psychoeducational group or a DBT group or a 12-step group, there's a certain amount of content that you're going to be learning. So they're going to be presenting information to you, and that's the content. And sometimes we get focused on one side versus the other instead of taking both end into consideration. Like sometimes we get so focused on what the topic's all about and what I'm learning exactly from this topic, but we forget that there's maybe some other things I could be getting from the interactions that are going on that are actually really therapeutic. Other times we could get sidetracked by the behavior of other people or the way the group is going, and we could get so distracted by that that we have a hard time benefiting from the content. All right, so we really have to take both into account in order to squeeze the most out of our therapy groups, okay? All right, so here's some issues that I've seen over the years. Now, I've been doing groups since I was in graduate school, and I don't know, God, like thousands and thousands of hours of group. I can't even count. All right, so these are some things that I've observed over the years in various kinds of therapy groups. Okay, so one thing I see from people that gets in the way, such as like a treatment interfering behavior, as they would say in DBT, is, I'm bored. I've heard this already. I've already been going to groups for years. I'm sick of these groups, okay? And kind of like assuming like I've already heard this, I already know this, and I don't need to be here, and there's nothing more that you could teach me, okay? So that's a kind of like a very willful approach. It's very rigid. It's kind of closing the door to any possibility of getting something out of it, all right? So that mindset could definitely get in the way. So it's very important, if that's what you're thinking, to try to figure out how could I use a beginner's mind approach in this group today. Maybe there's something I can get today that's still different from before. Okay, as I've mentioned in other videos, I've been doing DBT since 2001, and I'm still learning different things about DBT. So just because you've heard a particular content element before, it doesn't mean that you can't get something new out of it or that you can't apply it in a different way. So definitely keep your mind open. And also, you never know what the group leader or a group member is going to say today that might really strike a chord with you. So if you tune out, you could really miss out on something. Maybe someone shares an experience that really resonates with you and that teaches you something brand new. So always keep an open mind, okay? Okay, so next one. Why do we have to do this topic or activity that I don't like? All right, in DBT, some people go, oh, God, I hate mindfulness. I like the rest of the group, but I don't like mindfulness. So that's like an example of that. Or, let's say there's some kind of a warm-up activity you don't like, or there's a certain, like reviewing the handouts part you don't like, or going over the homework part that you don't like, or whatever it happens to be. So even though you don't like it, what can you still get out of it? Maybe there's still something you can learn, even though you don't like it. Or maybe it's even a chance to practice dealing with a situation that's not going your way. Because a lot of times things don't go our way, right? We're not always fully entertained and happy. So maybe in a process way, think of what could I get from this even though I don't like it? A little different, right? Okay, last one on this page. I can't stand such and such group member. and therefore I don't want to be in this group. So sometimes what happens is you have such an aversion toward a certain person. Maybe somebody's acting out or just has a personality you don't like, or is, being obnoxious in some kind of a way or disruptive. And it's so distracting to you that it feels like the whole group is shot. And sometimes that is the case. I mean, I definitely had experiences where, there's a group member or two that's very disruptive and it does get in the way of the group for other people. And that is realistic, especially in an inpatient setting. But sometimes, just your ability to learn how to tolerate that situation and be patient with other people and practice validating even in your mind the other people is part of the valuable process element of the group for you. So you might learn more from that part of the experience than you might even learn from the content you're learning that day. So just remember that, our ability to deal with each other is a huge part of our life, right? There's people we don't like at school, at work, at home, and tolerating people we don't like is, even learning how to accept people is an important lesson for us. So don't just throw that part away, okay? All right, so another category I'll say about the leaving too much juice behind is cognitive rigidity. So that's when we think too rigidly about things, and because of that, we're kind of missing some stuff that could be valuable. All right, so first sentence, this group is about blank. I don't have a problem with blank. This topic has nothing to do with me. So you come in and decide that, this doesn't relate to me, and then you just shut off your mind because you feel like this, I just don't see what the relevance is, right? So there's definitely some truth into the fact that some topics feel more relevant than others, right? Like if I came to therapy because I have family problems and interpersonal problems, and now we're doing, some other topic, or let's say we're doing anger management, and I say, well, but I don't have a problem with anger. That's not why I'm here. But maybe there's still something about that you could learn, even though that's not the main reason why you came to this group, right? Think about even if it's not always applying to me, maybe it's sometimes applying to me. Or maybe it applies to some people I know, and it helps me to understand them better so that when I interact with them, we have a better relationship, right? There's always something you could benefit from. And even throughout the discussion, people might say things, again, that might be very relevant to you, even though the initial topic may seem like it's not fully resonating, okay? Next, focusing on irrelevant details. Okay, so for example, a photo or a phrase on a handout, or just the way someone speaks in the group. Maybe you just don't like the leader's style, or if you're seeing a video, you don't really like the way the person's talking, or whatever. And you get so hooked on that minor detail that you're missing the bigger point. So for example, let's say I'm showing you this slide, we're in a group together, and you're like, oh, Steve Carell, yeah, I used to watch The Office all the time. Yeah, that's all right. I'm not sure I'm so crazy about that guy. And what's with that picture? He's got black glasses on, right? If I'm doing that, I'm missing the whole point of what we're talking about, right? So try not to get too carried away with minor things. Sometimes even there's a phrase, that someone's like, but I don't know what they mean by that. Or, that's stupid. Why'd they have to word it that way? Or, oh, they left out a comma here. They should be a comma. Come on, man. It's not that relevant. You got to let some of those little things go. All right, so you notice it, but then you have to let it go and move on, okay? So keep thinking, what's the bigger picture? What could I get from this? All right, next one. I don't understand what group is talking about. So I might as well just tune out or stick to what I already think, okay? So it might be a topic that's hard to understand, like certain topics, such as mindfulness, is pretty abstract, and it's not easy for everybody in the group to get it, right? So what's the thing to do if you don't get something? You raise your hand and you ask a question, okay? And that could be part of your practice of just being assertive. Maybe other people have the same question. Maybe it just wasn't presented really clearly, and you having the courage to ask a question could help a lot of people, all right? And also what I've found as a group leader is that when you participate and you try to comment on something, it gives me a sense of how well you're understanding it or not. So if I see that you're not getting it, I'll just jump in and try to help explain it to you or ask the question a different way. but I have no idea what you're thinking unless you start participating and letting me know, right? Or if you ask a question and let me know, because I can't always read everyone's mind. I mean, I try, but we just can't, all right? So don't be afraid. Don't just shut up, dismiss the whole group just because you don't get something, all right? Make sure you're following up and taking responsibility for your own learning. Okay, so another, getting all the juice you can, okay? Being prepared, okay? I'm sorry, so before we talked about obstacles, right? Leaving too much juice behind. Now we're switching, okay? So this is getting all the juice you can. This is about like, how could you squeeze the most out of your therapy groups? All right, so one thing, number one, is come prepared. So if it's a group that happens to have homework assignments, such as like we wanted you to practice this skill and write down what you did, or we wanted you to fill out a diary card, or we wanted you to prepare a mindfulness and present it to the group, make sure you do that. Make sure you're coming prepared, okay? And if you're supposed to be bringing a manual with you or some kind of handouts or materials that everyone's expected to do, make sure you're doing that also, okay? It's important to come rested and awake. If you know that group is at a certain time or a certain day, make sure that you're resting up well enough to get through it without falling asleep. I understand some of you guys are on heavy medication and it's really hard to do that. So if that's the case, do the best you can. Try to stand up and stretch if you need to. Do what you got to do to try to stay awake, because if you're sleeping, you really just can't get that much from group. Okay, so do your best. Another thing is, try to use the bathroom or get a drink of water before group. If it's an outpatient group and you're allowed to have a bottle of water or something, that's fine. But inpatient, we can't do that. So, just come prepared so you feel comfortable in the group and you're not preoccupied with, gee, I really got to go to the bathroom. When could I step out? And you're not also missing out on group by stepping out to take care of business. Okay. So it's also not less distracting for the group as a whole. Next thing is cope ahead with anticipated challenges. So if you know that there's people in the group you don't like, and you might be, having to deal with them, prepare in advance. Think about, how could I deal with that more effectively this time? If there's any coping skills that might help you deal with that group, just think about what you could do, so you're not caught off guard when you get there. Okay. Put away distractions. Okay. So if it's an outpatient group, I'd say try to put your cell phone away. Not only is it distracting to you, but it's distracting to everyone else. Okay. And also, I would say, even putting your cell phone away and allowing yourself to have that time just to yourself for your treatment is like a sign of your own self-respect. Because if you feel like you have to respond to people, otherwise they'll be mad at you or whatever, it's like you're taking away from your own time to work on yourself, right? You deserve the respect of having that time uninterrupted. Other times, if you're uncomfortable in the group, sometimes it's tempting to bring other stuff with you to keep you busy or distract yourself. Now, I know, for example, we talk about distraction skills as a way of coping, but if you use distraction skills in a group, it's taking away from you benefiting from the group. So that's not exactly the best place to do it. So try not to bring like a journal or a book or a magazine or a word search puzzle. I've seen all kinds of stuff over the years. Try to just be there fully, mindfully in the present moment in your group so you can get the most out of it. Okay, both in the process sense, interaction with people, and in the content sense, in terms of having the opportunity to pay attention and learn. And also, make sure that you're regulating your emotions enough so that you could be respectful of others. So the problem is, if you're stepping out of the room, if you're disrespectful to people, if you're unprepared, if you're sleeping, you're not going to even get the responses you want from people. People might have a way of reacting to you that triggers you more and makes you feel like you don't like that group, right? But if you present yourself in a calm, pleasant, respectful manner, you'll tend to get better reactions from other people, okay? You can't always control what they're bringing to the table and their state of mind and their mental illness, but you can control what you bring to the table, all right? So try to get all these treatment interfering behaviors out of the way and bring your best to the group, okay? Okay, so here's just some other general guidelines. Always ask yourself, whatever the topic is, how could this apply to me? it's just like, you might have to think a little more abstractly of how this could apply to your situation, but doing that little extra mental work might make it more meaningful to you. Try to be as non-judgmental as you can of the material, the group leader, your peers, and yourself. So this way you can be more open to receiving whatever there is to receive. Willingness, important DBT concept, which is kind of like that flexible open-mindedness. So you could, get the most out of your group, open your mind, all that stuff related, and search for the kernel of truth. So what is it that other people are saying to me that I could get? What could I squeeze out of this group that's really important that I could be my takeaway for today? Okay, so that's how you could get all the juice you can. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more. Okay, so looking for the not so obvious benefits and opportunities. Okay, so go a little deeper. Look at what else the group could be offering you besides what you just kind of thought first. Okay, so for example, being assertive, right? If you tend to be a little quiet in group, a little shy, it might be your perfect opportunity to practice asserting yourself, participating, speaking up, and learning that you'll survive that and that it'll be okay. All right, that's a great opportunity. And if you practice it in your group, you might be better at doing it on the outside too. It could be a great opportunity to practice emotion regulation skills, because sometimes other people could rub you the wrong way. It could be an intense topic. It could be frustrating, and so you have to use some of your skills just to get through the group. But it's a great opportunity to practice. Like I've mentioned before, being patient and tolerant with other people and different personalities, which is also something we have to do in our everyday life, but definitely an opportunity to practice that in group. Tolerating imperfection and things not always going your way, right? Today's topic may not be the topic I really wanted to talk about. Maybe someone's dominating the group and I didn't get a chance to speak today as much as I wanted to. Maybe I did the homework, but I did it wrong. Okay, so there's a lot of chances where I have to practice tolerating imperfection, but I could also learn that it's okay not to be perfect. I could be flawsome, all right? I could be flawed and awesome at the same time. Like I mentioned before, being less judgmental, great practice for that. Or catching yourself being judgmental and trying to turn it around. Or you notice you want to say something judgmental, but you hold back that urge and you don't say it. Lots of good practice there for sure. If you have relationship issues in a group setting, it's a great chance to practice slowly building trust and connecting with people. So in a group, instead of coming in, let's say first time in group, and spilling your guts and telling you all your deep, dark secrets, which might be way too much for you and for the other people, it's a chance to practice, slowly opening up, testing the waters, seeing how people respond, and noticing that when people do respond okay, making that eye contact, seeing when people really do support you, okay? Allowing yourself to take in positive feedback from people or support from people, which might be a struggle. Sometimes it's hard to take in the good, but this could be great practice because sometimes in group, people try to be supportive, and it's a good chance to practice accepting that. All right. On the other hand, you might get some difficult feedback from people. People might confront you on certain things. So it's practice taking in feedback and allowing yourself to hear some of that hard information. People might call you on your crap, and you may not want to hear it, but maybe it's a great chance to learn something, right? And also a chance to being vulnerable safely. Sometimes we're terrified of vulnerability. We're terrified of being attacked and hurt. But sometimes if we could be vulnerable and it's okay because it's responded to well, that could be a great learning experience. Because sometimes, before this group opportunity, maybe we never felt that before, okay? And I think this is the last one. Yes, it is. Okay, so I hope that information helps you to get the most out of your therapy groups or 12-step groups or whatever groups you're in. Okay, so try to use this approach and get all the benefit you can. Okay, guys. All right, thank you. All right, see you soon.